All right. So, welcome everyone to COVID-19 and real estate, just the facts with Stephen Hurd. And today I am super excited to be talking about a topic that I've been passionate about for a while now, as I have a goal for myself to buy a home in Big Bear. So today we're going to be talking about investing in Big Bear. And, you know, the purpose of this meetup group is to create connections with other investors, other home buyers and sellers in the area, and also just to understand how COVID-19 is affecting the real estate market. So thank you, everyone, for hopping on the call. Jonathan, why don't you tell them a little bit about yourself, you know, share with us maybe how you got into real estate and you know, how you got to selling homes in Big Bear.
Awesome. Thanks, Stephen. Yeah, I got to meet Pandu real quick, JL and Sommer. Looking forward to meeting you. Feel free to turn on your camera if you feel comfortable doing so. I would love to see your face. A little bit about me, and then we're just going to dig into it. My goal is to give you guys as much value as possible within 30 minutes, and then take some time to answer your questions. So like Stephen said, my name is Jonathan Vasquez. I'm up in Big Bear. I live here. I am originally from San Diego. I was born and raised down by the beach in Linda Vista, and then lived in East County, San Diego, up until about the summer of 2008 when I moved up here to Big Bear, and I've been up here ever since. Met my wife shortly after moving up here, and we've been married since 2011. I have 2 kids, a 8-year-old and a 6-year-old. And as you know, as far as real estate is concerned, I mean, I've been, as long as I've been working since I was a kid, I've been in customer service. So I'm passionate about serving people, getting to know them. And I just happen to be really good at real estate too, is the way I look at it. I've been doing that since 2012, specifically in Big Bear. And yeah, happy to bring this information to you. Today, we are going to be discussing investing in Big Bear, specifically what is the ideal short-term vacation rental property, right? That approach. That really is the most popular approach. Most of the people that I serve are coming from, you know, basically within 2 hours, but I'll kind of dive into that point and why it's important to you or your friends or your family if they're considering buying in Big Bear, you know, with the intent to invest in a short-term vacation rental property. All right? Give me a thumbs up if you guys are ready to dive in. Awesome.
We're ready to dive in, and you know, I just want to share. You know, I met Jonathan a few years ago at a real estate conference, and you know, I've been kind of following his journey in helping clients do Airbnbs in Big Bear. And so he shared some stories with me about some of his clients that are doing it right, and they're actually making a really, really good profit each year. I don't know if you want to share about that, but, you know, people making between $20,000 and $40,000 a year on their, you know, net profit on their rental. So, you know, that's how I kind of connected with him, and that's what got me intrigued in this whole Airbnb thing in Big Bear. So I'm excited to learn from you, and I think we all are.
Awesome. Thanks, Stephen. So we're gonna touch on 7 considerations before buying. What I would encourage every buyer to take into consideration, and I'm gonna go into each one of these points. And so we have why would I invest in Big Bear? I think it's really important in anything that we do in life to know why we're doing it. And so that's an important one. Where is the best place to buy? That is a common question. And what is the ideal property? How to run a rental property and maximize profit, cost to purchase, cost to maintain, and remodeling do's and don'ts. Now, I intentionally left my slides as minimal as possible because you know, if you were sitting here with me and having a cup of coffee, I enjoy eye contact, and really my goal is to just give you a lot of information. So hopefully you have your notepad and you're taking notes. I'm actually going to bring up my notes that I took in prep for this time with you guys. So here we go. So why invest in Big Bear? Why would it make a great investment opportunity? Well, there's a lot of answers to that question. And, you know, one reason being is that it's a four-season ski resort. Activities galore. I mean, there is so much to do in Big Bear. And that's one of the reasons why I chose Big Bear to live, and why I just chose, why I chose last year to buy a rental property. And I'll share a little bit about that if you guys are curious on what I bought. I'll touch on it just a little bit, and I'm happy to answer any questions on my property too. So activities galore. I'm going to show you kind of just proximity. A lot of people ask, Jonathan, where is Big Bear? I mean, I visit LA and Orange County a few times a year, and it's common that I get people saying, where is Big Bear? So as you can see on this map here, it's not very far. It's within 2 hours. If you're driving fast, you can get here in an hour and a half, right? Right now with COVID and the streets being fairly clear, one of my clients got here the other day. I think he said, we're in Esco right now. He's like, yeah, I came up in an hour and 25 minutes or something like that from Los Angeles. So, you know, activities galore within 2 hours, you know, conveniently close, right? So, I mean, and there's so many ways that I can go with that, you know, being in close proximity to something, you know, if your kid's school is, you know, down the street a block, that is very convenient. There's a whole lot of things you could do. You can grab ice cream on the way, right? Well, same concept here. I mean, it's you know, like I said, most of the people that I'm serving are from Los Angeles, Orange County, Riverside, San Diego. And I can't even tell you how many times I've helped buyers purchase property that said, well, we were thinking about going to Mammoth. I said, well, Mammoth is awesome too. Why would you choose Big Bear? Well, I'd rather not drive 4 hours, and Big Bear just checks all the boxes for me. And that, I have heard that more and more, increasingly more over the last few years. So conveniently close. And it's in constant demand. Pretty much every single person, I mean, even just my buddies from LA that I'm in escrow with right now, oh God, I can't wait to just get up to Big Bear. I mean, they're buying right now in the middle of COVID. I can't wait to get up to Big Bear. We're going to get so much done on our house and get it ready for the rental season in the wintertime. So there's always a need for vacation, regardless of the market. You know, in 2012, when Big Bear was at the bottom of the market after the 2008 crash, I was still helping people buy homes. That year, I was only in the market for about 6 months, and I helped 6 buyers buy homes. So there's always a demand. People always need to go on vacation. So when you're thinking of investment and getting the highest return on your investment, whether you're looking at Big Bear or anywhere else, it's the name of the game is how many boxes can I check? And the more boxes you could check of what it's going to do for you, the more money you're going to make, right? So where is the best place to buy in Big Bear? I love that question. And there's, again, so many ways that I can go with it, but I want to break down for you really what, you know, where is Big Bear? I've talked to so many people that are like, oh yeah, you know, I'm looking in Big Bear City, but they think that they're talking about they're thinking about Big Bear Lake. So I have to clarify. I say, well, and I'm going to bring up a map here in a second, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. In Big Bear, there are 4 zip codes. You got 92315, which is Big Bear Lake. You got 92314, which is Big Bear City. Big Bear City, it really covers a lot of ground. Then you have Sugarloaf, a smaller territory, that's 92386. And then you have Fonskin, 92333. I'm going to bring up a map here in a second, and I'll kind of highlight those. So in answering this question, where is the best place to buy in Big Bear? You know, first and foremost, I say, well, what's your budget? And for the most part, I mean, for the sake of conversation here, we're going to talk about the 350 price point, right? That's the most popular price point. 350 to, you know, 400 is like what everybody's after right now, and under. So I'll in a moment, I'm I'm going to show you some real-time examples. I'm going to take you to straight to the MLS. I'm going to show you a few side-by-side examples of what is like an ideal listing for a rental property, and I'll explain why. But back to where's the best place to buy. You know, first you got to determine what your budget is, and then secondly, you got to get familiar with the territory. And so one of the first things that I encourage people to do is, hey, I'm going to show you the highlights of the top few areas that meet your criteria, right, within your budget. That will really, you know, my goal is to save you time. So I'm going to show you the cream of the crop. I've seen a lot of the listings. I've been in most of the homes. So I don't want to waste your time. I'm going to show you the best. And then after our appointment, I'm going to encourage you to grab a cup of coffee if you're staying the night, and just go on a joyride. Go check out Big Bear, and here's a map, right? In determining where the best place is to buy, it's really good to know where not to buy. So I'm going to also highlight a couple of neighborhoods that you want to avoid because they have HOAs that are restrictive, they have CC&Rs that are restrictive, and then there's a floodplain that not a lot of people know about, and not a lot of agents, surprisingly, tell their clients until they're in escrow, and their lender is requiring them to get a flood insurance quote and require flood insurance. So here's the map of the Big Bear Valley. I'm going to minimize these other windows here. Boom. Okay. So here's the map of the Big Bear Valley. Tell me if you guys can see the pencil. Can you guys see what I'm?
Yeah, I can see it.
Can you guys see the red on the screen?
I can see it.
Okay,
yep.
Cool. So I'm going to highlight approximately where Big Bear Lake is, okay? Now, when people are meeting with me in my office, I have a larger map in front of me, and it's kind of all highlighted into different sections, so it's a little bit easier to show than this one. But this one's fun. So this is the Big Bear, forget the highlight for a second. The satellite view here is the Big Bear Valley. This is the only area that I do real estate in. It keeps me plenty busy. There's plenty of people to serve. A lot of people wanting to purchase vacation homes in Big Bear. So essentially down here, the dam on the west end, can you see that? That's
yep.
pointing towards Los Angeles, Orange County. So I serve from there to the east end, way down here. So that's the Big Bear Valley. A lot of people say, well, John, do you do Arrowhead too? Not yet. And Arrowhead is really a different beast when we're talking about vacation rentals. And I can answer those questions if you have them at the end. So we're just going to focus on Big Bear. So this funky looking circle that I just highlighted, that is Big Bear Lake. Now, Big Bear Lake is split into 3 sections, okay? You have approximately right here and right here. You got Big Bear Lake West, you have Big Bear Lake East, you have Big Bear Lake Central, and Big Bear Lake East. I know it's horrible writing, right? You guys following me?
Yep.
Cool. So, you know, in really honing in on the question of where's the best place to buy, let's just say you say, well, John, I'm looking to buy, I don't want to spend over $350,000. Great. You're wanting to use it as a full-time, or you're wanting to come up a few times a year and you want to use it as a vacation rental property to, you know, get optimal income. Okay. Well, where I would encourage you to, you know, keep your focus on is this Big Bear Lake East area. Reason being is that there's a whole lot of amenities in that area. You have the lake, you have the village, which is right here. You have parks everywhere. You have National Forest, you have Snow Summit right here. You have Bear Mountain about 5 minutes away. You have the golf course for the summertime. You have plenty of restaurants along the boulevard here. So my map's getting a little bit messy here, but point being is that if you're looking at the 350 price point, Big Bear Lake East is a great area. Now, the caveat there is that you're going to get more bang for your buck as you go east I personally purchased last April a house right here in this neighborhood. Can you guys see where I'm circling?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I talked about Big Bear Lake. It's over here where I made this big mess. Okay. Let me see if I could erase this. Okay. So I talked about Big Bear Lake. Now let's talk about Big Bear City. Big Bear City covers a lot of terrain. Big Bear City, the 92314 zip code, is basically within that and part of Moon Ridge over here too. Okay. So let me step back for a second. I talked about Big Bear Lake. Moon Ridge is over here, right? Big Bear City is over and everything else I highlighted. Now, for an ideal, for what we're talking about with an ideal vacation rental property, I would encourage people to not go past basically this line here. And there's a lot of reasons for that. And I can come back and answer some of those questions as to the reasons, but I'm going to tell you why I chose this neighborhood, okay, specifically, and why my client who is pocketing $40,000 a year with this small 700 square foot home that I helped to buy for $165,000 is, pocketing him that much money, and he's over here. A lot of people say, well, no, I need to be next to the slopes. I need to be next to the lake. Well, that may be true, but I have seen more times than not a few particular people, with their first and second and third cabin, just crush it over here in Big Bear City, and you're going to get more bang for your buck. You're going to get, more square footage. You're going to get a lot of times more land, and I'll talk about why that's important. Okay, so I bought right here. Can you see where I'm circling? Because of all of the amenities that it has to offer, and I'll go into more detail on that. Now, before I go into that, I mentioned some areas to avoid. Okay, so you see that orange? At least, let me bring up the pencil. This does a better job of outlining where Big Bear Lake is. Okay, but this purple stuff over here, this is the 100-year floodplain that I was talking about on the FEMA map. Okay, that is where you see how over here you can see. I know it's kind of a high satellite view, but there's a whole lot of houses there, and there's an airport. That's one of the areas that I just flat out avoid, and I encourage people to do that. One, it's just not as desirable in terms, especially over here on the east side. Let me clear this up. Over here on the east side of the airport, south side of the airport, it's just not as desirable of neighborhoods, but most importantly, the floodplain that's going through there, yeah, it's a 100-year floodplain, but I got to tell you, as long as I've been in Big Bear the last 11, 12 years, I've seen a lot of people, these monsoon storms come in the summertime, late summer, and they usually end up having to make some insurance claims, and it's kind of a mess. So I would avoid those areas, okay? So what is the ideal property? Here's some main pointers. These are all things to take into consideration. Amenities, and I kind of broke amenities up into two sections. Amenities nearby, surrounding locations, and amenities on site. Square footage, bedrooms, and bathrooms. So let's break this down. So I'm gonna bring your guys' face back up so I can see beautiful faces. There you are. Hi, Jamie. Thank you for tuning in. Appreciate it. James, hey.
Hi, yeah, sorry for being late.
No, you're totally fine, man. This is recorded and you'll be able to pick it up later. So I'm breaking down, I'm really gonna hone in on this question, what is the ideal property? I think it's a really important one as people are deciding their budget. Because I've had a lot of people that are like, yeah, I'm gonna try to keep it under 250. Awesome, I always wanna respect the budget. Here's what you can get for it. They're like, well, what can I get for a little bit more? Well, or for the ideal property, John, well, let me show you. And they usually end up, fudging their own numbers to be able to meet that, what is the ideal, okay? I did it myself when I purchased. Okay, so amenities nearby, let me explain what that means. I'm going to use my house as an example, and shortly I'm going to give you some side-by-sides, real-time examples from the MLS. I sold my house, we're going on almost a year and a half now. I did the 2-year flip plan, and my next purchase was the 2-year live in it to avoid capital gains if I decide to sell it 5 years, but primarily to use it as a vacation rental property, and really to use it to make it a workhorse for me, okay? So that's what I'm living in right now, and here's what I bought. I bought a 1,600 square foot home. I bought the crappiest house in a great neighborhood on the northern hill of the airport, which I'll kind of just go back to that screen. Nah, it's not letting me. On the hill on the north end of the airport. So I have great ski slope views. There's an amenity, a nearby amenity. I have literally, I grab my cup of coffee in the mornings and I go walk to the forest, which is literally, you know, like 1 minute and I'm in the forest. I knew I needed a minimum of, like, ideally it's 3-bedroom minimum plus a loft or a den or a game room. You know, ideally something you could turn into a game room and or extra living space. And I'll explain that in more detail when I get to the square footage point. But I chose to purchase this home. It did not have 3 bedrooms. It was 2 bedrooms plus a loft, but there was extra space that we're using as a living room, a nice living room. But if I needed to, I could turn that into a 3rd bedroom. But it's got all the other features. It's got all the other genetic makeup that I'm going to talk about here as to why I purchased it. I bought it for $259. And going back to the budget, you know, when I ask people their budget, you know, my goal is always to help people reach their goals. A lot of times I've found that people, they've been watching too much HGTV, they get super amped up and they want to spend $500,000, $700,000. There's a lot of risk when you start getting into that higher end pricing and big bear, and I'll explain why. And if I there's so much that I'm covering here. If I miss that point, please, you know, feel free to invite me to come back to that point. Okay. Let's see. So I'm talking about amenities with nearby amenities. So ski slope views, forest access. Now, those are just some examples of amenities nearby. Amenities on site, I wanted something that gave me room, like on my lot, to add more amenities, okay? So talking about what is the ideal property, nice background, Jamie, I dig it. Talking about the ideal property, in my opinion, you don't want to get anything less than a 5,000 square foot lot. Ideally 7,200 square foot or more if it's usable. Okay, and there's a couple of ways to break down whether it's usable. One, is it usable? Like, is it flatter where you could add some fun like games like horseshoe pits or outside amenities like fire pit or a trampoline or whatever, right, for your guests? Because again, when you're purchasing, like looking for that ideal property, really the way that you want to look at it is, what is the ideal property for my guest, my future guest, to enjoy? And the name of the game is experience. That's where Airbnb really came out the gate swinging, is because they had a vision and they knew how to provide a user experience, a consumer experience on their website, and they really delivered on that. So as you're looking at what is the ideal property for your own investment, you really want to look at it through that scope of imagining what your future guests will enjoy. And again, the more boxes you could check in any investment, the more money you're going to make, right? So we talked about amenities, square footage. Now, I'm not going to dig into this super deep, but because a lot of people say, well, 1,500 square foot, is great, but 2,200 square feet plus is ideal. Well, 2,200 square foot plus is ideal if you are okay with spending $500,000 and you really check all the other boxes that are going to make that investment opportunity, where you're really not taking it's optimal for rental purposes, and not all of them are in that price point. So again, for the sake of this conversation, we're using the price point of around $350, which is the most popular. or on demand. So that's going to get you, you're going to want to get a minimum of 1,500 square feet if you're in that price point in today's current market, right? That's kind of subject to change depending on the market. So we're just talking about today's current market, a buyer looking in the 350 price point. Bedrooms and bathrooms, I briefly talked about that. You're going to want a minimum of 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. That would be ideal. And then again, if you could have a loft or a game room. Now, one of the things I didn't go over, let me see if I can go back to it real quick. And explaining, okay, I'm going to pull out the pencil again here. So I mentioned the difference between Big Bear Lake. You got Big Bear Lake, you got Big Bear City, you got Sugarloaf. I said there was 4 zip codes, right? And you got Fawnskin, okay? Now, there's more land there that's encompassing that, but for the sake of just slapping it on a map, there's your 4 zip codes, approximately, okay? Big Bear Lake really is more ideal. You have more amenities. Well, one of the things that I really wanted to point out is Big Bear Lake is incorporated, the city of Big Bear Lake, okay? Big Bear City, it can get a little confusing. Big Bear City is non-incorporated. And why does that matter when you're looking at investment property? Well, it affects the, Big Bear City is primarily under county regs and regulations and codes for if you wanted to do remodeling, building, and then Big Bear Lake, the city of Big Bear Lake is incorporated. You're under different codes, different regulations. And now when it comes to the vacation rental, short-term vacation rental investments, how that comes into play. Let's see if I can get off this. There we go. How that comes into play is, so Big Bear City, unincorporated, is, we're talking about square footage. They allow 1 person per 100 square feet. The city of Big Bear Lake, incorporated, they allow 1 person per 200 square feet, okay? So that's really, that's going to matter if you're wanting to, maximize your profit and get the most amount of people in there. If you're wanting to keep it under 300,000, for example, and that's only going to get you a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, well, if the square footage isn't there, you may be limited on the amount of people that you could fit in the home, and therefore families may not be, it's going to cut out the pool of families that are wanting to rent out that home. Does that make sense? Give me a thumbs up if you guys are tracking with me. Cool. And again, if you have questions on any of the points I'm making, please take note of them and we'll answer them at the end, okay? So let's look at some examples. Now, what I'm going to try to do here, let's see if I can go to it. Are you guys following my screen right now? Did that switch over okay for you guys? Okay, cool.
No, we do not see the, if you're pulling up properties, we still see your slideshow.
Okay, I'm going to stop sharing that so I could share my screen. You guys still with me?
Yep.
Okay, here we go. How about now? Can you guys see all this data here?
Yep.
Very cool. Okay, so this is information directly from my MLS. I pulled up a few properties that are currently on the market, and this is going to kind of help, really make what I'm saying come to life. Okay, so I brought up a few properties, and primarily we're going to focus on Big Bear Lake versus Big Bear City. Okay, so here is, down here you have Big Bear Lake. Over here you have Big Bear City, and we're going to look at this property first. So this is in Big Bear Lake. Remember how I split up Big Bear Lake into 3 sections? You had Big Bear Lake West over by the dam. You have Big Bear Lake Central, kind of closer to the village. And then you have Big Bear Lake East, a little bit, closer to the ski slopes, okay? Let me pull up the map again just for reference. Steven, how we doing on time, brother?
We want to probably wrap this portion up in the next 5 minutes.
Very good. Okay. So this property here in Big Bear Lake, it's right on the border of Big Bear Lake Central and Big Bear Lake East. So right here, you have the village, which is a hot spot for tourists and people coming up to ultimately rent your future vacation property, right? Well, over here you see all these trails up in here. You got fire roads. You have some of the best.
We don't see your. We're not seeing the map you're looking at.
Oh, you're
not. We're just seeing the MLS printout. Yeah.
Okay, let me pull that up one more time because that's important. Okay, so the property is right here. So over here, you got the village. You have, Meadow Park over here, right by the lake. You have mountain biking. You have Snow Summit, the ski resort right here. So this is a great property in a great location at a good price. Okay, I didn't say great price because it's not sold yet. But look at the stats here. So you got 3 bedrooms. Can you guys see where I'm pointing to? You got 2 bathrooms. You have an additional, like living space here. They got 10 rooms total here. You got 2-car garage. You have 2,100 square feet. And look at the list price per square foot on that, $171 a square foot in a neighborhood that is all day long, $250 a square foot plus. Okay. So this actually right now is a pretty sweet property. 7,300 square feet, if you could see down here, for the lot. And I've been at this property. I've seen it. They've done some awesome upgrades on it over the years. Let me scroll through some of these. If it will let me.
So when it says 10 rooms, Jonathan, is that is that saying it sleeps 10 people, or it actually has 10 bedrooms?
No, it's including like living room, laundry room, kitchen, bathroom, that kind of thing.
Interesting. So, okay, so like in Orange County and LA, we don't include that in the MLS.
Okay.
So that's very interesting to know.
Well, and just a little side note, it's not always accurate. It depends on who's inputting it, or the agent that's inputting it. But look at this home. I mean, it's got, okay, I'm just going to point out some things that are ideal when you're looking at properties. Like ideally, you don't want to have to put in a ton of money. The house that I bought, having to put in a little bit more money than I had hoped. So, when you're looking at the ideal investment property, ideally, it'd be great if it came already remodeled and it makes sense in the price point. Okay, so you got what appears to be vinyl flooring here. You got the open floor concept, which people really love because they want to, when they're coming up here to the mountains, they want to be able to like hang with their crew. They're barbecuing, outside. They're partying in the living room. Someone else is in the kitchen. So again, you really want to think about your future guests because they're the ones that are going to be leaving you reviews and setting you up for your future success and inviting more people, more consumers, right? So you got just that open floor concept. You got that cabin vibe. The beam ceilings. These are all things that people really find desirable, and for whatever reason, it's not letting me go to the other photographs. So that's a great property, okay? Again, it's just walking distance to all of the main attractions. Now, some of the cons on this property, I've been here in the wintertime, is that it's north facing. And why is that important? It's going to be more, have more shade in the wintertime. And, so a little bit more maintenance costs with like snow plowing and stuff like that, because it's not going to melt as quickly. Whereas if you're south facing with more sun exposure. Okay, so that's one property. And I'm going to go to just one other comparison for Big Bear City. So quite a bit less on the price. Look at the price up here, $289. 3 bedroom, 2 bathrooms, still a garage, still about the same. I mean, so all the same features. Yeah, it's a little bit higher list price per square foot, but lower price. So this is where, like, when you're looking at property in Big Bear, you really want to kind of throw out the price per square foot idea, because a lot of people, I mean, they're used to that really being important in Orange County and LA, not important up here. I've seen this house right here. You could have the same one in even one block over, and it has different amenities, and it's going to be $20, $30, $40 a square foot more, right? But look at this house. Okay, so it has charm factor or features. It's got a nice combination between clean, mainstream, and cabiny, right? These are the types of things that people want to look for when they're looking at the ideal vibe for a vacation rental property, because this is what renters love, and they're, you know, Instagramming their photos and all, you know, tweeting and all that kind of stuff, and that really goes into play with getting optimal attraction on your Airbnb site. Now, I'm going to move on. And I'm going to kind of run through these other ones fairly quickly. I feel like I really want to put the most important stuff at the beginning. So how to run a rental property. There's really two main options. The, you know, most popular option that people use when they're coming up from LA, Orange County, they're using their cabin a few times a year, and the rest of the time, they don't really want to have to think about their cabin, maintaining it, managing the rentals, all that. So they hire a management company. Now, the management companies, they're going to charge you on average 30% per rental. So yeah, you're getting full service, but you're not really making optimal income as you might with the second option, which would be the do-it-yourself, you know, through Airbnb, VRBO. Now, the DIY approach is just like it sounds. It is do-it-yourself. But I have had a lot of people over the years, especially the more recent years. In fact, if you follow Jake Levin, he is the Big Bear. It's at Big Bear Treehouse on Instagram. You're going to see exactly what I'm talking about of the ideal property in his price point, which about the 250 price point right now, 225 price point. He's crushing it. He is like the rock star that I'm always pointing to. And for his own privacy, I don't want to share his numbers, but he is blowing it out of the park, and he's doing numbers that I've seen cabins do across from Bear Mountain Ski Resort or in Big Bear Lake East that are twice the size. He's pocketing some really good money. So again, his handle is at Big Bear Treehouse on Instagram. Okay. But so the DIY approach on Airbnb and VRBO, it's really not as daunting as it sounds. So what that would look like is you would want to have, you know, if you have a spa, you'd want a spa cleaner guy set up, you know, and I have great recommendations that I could give you if you ever decide to purchase in Big Bear. You know, you'd want to, most importantly, a cleaning person, you know, somebody that it can come on routine cleaning. And there's a whole lot of people that you could hire that are great at that service. And you know, Jake, for example, he's got his cleaning person. He chose not to have a spa, and the reason why is because he has plenty of other amenities that are attracting, you know, the way that he's marketing his property. He doesn't need a spa. Although, if you add a spa, I mean, he potentially could be making another $15,000 in income annually. But let's see. So you would need a cleaning person, a you know, spa person on standby, and those are really the most basic ones. And then you're running your own books, but Airbnb makes it so easy for you. You know, they're managing the rentals, and then they charge your guest. You could charge your guest the cleaning fee out of their rental fee. So cost to purchase, and there's so many ways that I can go with that. There's a lot more information on you know, how to run a rental property. Cost to purchase. You know, a lot of people that are looking at Big Bear, maybe they saw it, you know, in the newspaper. They heard one of their friends, you know, more often that's what it is. They heard one of their friends in LA or Orange County bought a house in Big Bear. They're not always aware of what the costs are, and you may not be aware of what the costs are, and the difference between a second home versus an investment home loan. So obviously you could buy a house cash if that is available to you. But the more popular option, even people that have cash, especially right now with interest rates being so low, they're going with either a second home loan or an investment home loan. The difference between the two, like the main point that I'll make here, second home, you could go as little as 10% down. Okay. An investment home requires a minimum of 20% down. An investment home loan requires 20% down. Now, second home, there's a little bit of gray area on that. Like when I've talked with the lenders, really they don't want to see like right out the gate, like the house being thrown on the rental market and it being rented full time, right? Because then they would consider you a primary. They would be more of a primary home loan category, and But what I mean by gray areas, they do allow under the second home loan option, they do allow rentals, especially after the 6-month mark. If you wanted to go, full steam ahead on that. The investment home loan is really like it sounds more for, hey, this is going to be purely investment. I may use it 1 or 2 times a year, but right out the gate, it's going to be an investment property, full-time workhorse rental property. It's going to be a 20% minimum down. Okay. And if you have questions on costs for financing,
on something like that, Jonathan, on let's say Mount Doble Drive, you'd be looking at putting it down around $29,000.
Yeah. Yep.
And what would you say something like that would rent for on average, for Airbnb?
I'm, in Big Bear City, so that's another thing that I wanted to go into. If you look at the stats on Airbnb's traffic, the occupancy rate is a little bit higher in Big Bear City, but like by 2% on average. And I believe that the reason for that is because there's, it's more densely populated with homes. But if you look at the rental income for what hosts are receiving as rental income, it's about $300 less on average. Breaking it down per night, depending on, for Mount Doble specifically, it could be 200 in the, coming off of the main season, which would be the wintertime, basically end of November through February if it's a good snow season. That's actually around the holidays, January, December, right there around New Year's, Christmas. That is the top of the market for rental activity. Every year, every cabin in Big Bear is booked out pretty much. So the rates actually double. So that's why I'm kind of pausing a little bit on my answer, is because it really depends on what the season really. So going out to Mount Doble, it's a little bit further east than, it's about 7 minutes away from Big Bear Lake, as opposed to, if you're in Big Bear City, 2 minutes away from the Big Bear Lake. So you may see a lower nightly rate there. And I've seen them in the $150 to $199 a night range.
That seems pretty fair. I've seen, I think, off season, even even in the area by the airport, like you talked about, I think the lowest I was really seeing was like 150, and that was for 2 bedrooms. For 3 bedrooms, the lowest I've seen, even in the off season, was, or for 3 bedrooms was around that 170 to 190. So, so if you put 10% down, you'd have a $259,000 mortgage. Let's say you brought in, worst case scenario, $150 a night. You rented it 20 nights a month. You'd be looking at $3,000 a month, right? And then you'd obviously have your mortgage and your other fees. That'd be between $1,500 to say $2,000 a month. So you could be making $1,000 on that with 10% down. That's what that would look like, and still get to enjoy it. Right. Obviously, if you rented it out, the entire month, and you had that strategy in place, and you built up your following, that number could go up. But, you know, looking at a conservative worst case scenario, that's what you'd be looking at.
Yeah. And, you know, that's where occupancy rate would also be really important to look at. And usually, and I try to be a little careful in quoting too many numbers with regards to the rental aspect. My process there is, I have two friends that are in one of the number one rental management companies. They own one of the number one rental management companies in Big Bear. Usually, I would point people to have them give a breakdown of rental projections, and they always run a little conservative. And so we start there because not everybody wants to do Airbnb, right? Not everybody wants to use their vacation rental income home, you know, as also a side business like Airbnb would essentially be, the do-it-yourself approach. So that's why I usually start there, and then that's usually a basis for, you know, that you could at least do that via Airbnb.
Cool. Well, that was really awesome. I think, you know, kind of like in summarizing and opening it up for questions. I mean, it sounds like, you know, there's a couple of you know, different communities that you really have to be aware of. So you have to figure out where you're going to buy, right? It sounds like the amenities, both in the city and, you know, and in the home are critical. And then, you know, it sounds like, you know, looking for a property with a minimum of 1,500 square feet, about a 5,000 square foot lot, you know, around that 35, you know, 350 price point seems like the best bang for your buck.
Yeah. And having someone that knows the area, the ins and the outs, is important, you know. So, I mean, that's just a given anywhere where you're looking.
Well, and that's why I connected with you, Jonathan, because you know, I know how to invest in real estate here in Orange County. And even when I told you I was buying a home in Big Bear, you said, well, you have your real estate license. Why wouldn't you just do it yourself? And my response to you was, because I don't know the first thing about mountain life or how to attract, you know, the right tenants or the contractors down there, and all of those things that could mess up all of my plans
right.
and leave me without cash flow. It's certainly better to work with someone when I don't even have to pay them. The listing agent's going to pay your commission.
Right.
So, awesome. So we'll open it up for questions, and before we sign off, we'll let everybody know where they can contact you. If you want to throw some links to your Instagram and your Facebook or your email address, if you want to chat those in the comments, now would be a good time to do that. But let's go ahead and, you know, even though we're catching up in real estate and we're doing some educational things, you know, we're doing this through meetup.com, and one of the real advantages of Meetup is creating connections with other people. So it's not just about real estate. It's not just about us. It's also about meeting the other members in the group. So we're going to open this time up for questions. And if anybody wants to share any experiences they've had with Airbnb, maybe success stories, failures, concerns, or any questions for Jonathan, now would be the time. So we'll go ahead and open it up. Thanks for chatting that in, Jonathan. Why don't we kind of call on Pandu? You own an Airbnb, Pandu. Why don't you kind of, you know, tell us what your experience was, and you know, how did you like the presentation, and any feedback on that?
Oh, thank you. Hey, good afternoon, everyone, and maybe good evening. Yes, I do have a Airbnb which I'm managing myself. And I also have an VRBO also. On both the places, I have the same listing. I have been managing it for the last 1 year. I bought exactly last year, April. We've been quite busy actually. Airbnb is a little bit of, you get the guests from all classes. Sometimes you get a guest, they may not be quite respect your property. You also get guests that really respect your property. So that is one of the con if you say Airbnb, but it attracts different levels of the guests. Whereas VRBO, the way I understand, a little bit higher price point, but then you only get guests, people can afford it. But at the same time, you really have to have good property to put in VRBO because the client base, you really have to have a really decent property and good amenities and everything. So that has been my experience. But so far I had 75 guests in my Airbnb for the last 1 year. I had only 3 bad incidents. So my success rate is still almost more than 90% from that aspect of it.
That's great.
That's great. That's really good.
So obviously, just like everyone, now for the last this month and probably next month is going to be on hold because the city asked us not to rent it out unless it is a 60 days or longer rent. So in fact, I'm also getting inquiries for that one too. But currently at this time, it is vacant. But I've been doing great until the end of March.
That's good. That's good. And that's part of why I reached out to Jonathan to talk about tonight, because there's going to be a lot of people in Big Bear in the next couple of months that are really reliant on that Airbnb income. And as a result of that, if they don't get that income in the next couple of months, they're going to be likely to sell. And when those homes go on the market, we start to get a little bit of more supply. It could cause there to be some deals here and there. So there's a deal in every market, but I think it's pretty safe to say that that's a good guesstimate of what's going to happen. So that's kind of why I wanted to bring this to you guys. Because, if there's a better place where you can spend $29,000 and make, $12,000 conservatively back, then of course you want to do that, right, on an annual basis. But that's a pretty good return, and now could be an opportunity where you can work out a win-win with a seller, where you maybe it's their home and they're thinking about moving back into it or staying there. And you say, listen, if you work out a deal on the price, I'll let you, continue as my renter for the next 6 months at a reasonable amount where I'm making a profit and my mortgage is covered. So you could end up having a decent tenant in there. So there's always opportunities. But Jamie, I would love to hear from you. What's been your experience, or are you just kind of like, where are you at in the whole investing process, and what are you learning?
Oh, in the whole investing process, I am just starting out, taking this time to really get to know the market. Like you said earlier, come 3-4 months from now, there's definitely, I feel, going to be some supply out there. So I'm just trying to see what markets will be opening up. I was thinking Airbnb. People have been mentioning that. I know Vegas has been hit pretty bad out there as well. So I'm just really trying to do that, do my research. So hopefully within the next 3-4 months, I have a piece of property ready to go.
Good for you. That's awesome, man. So you're kind of just in the start where you're getting educated and you're just kind of getting informed on what to do.
Yes.
Cool. Well, we're excited to have you as part of the group. Anybody else want to share any investment opportunities or questions they have? Or even referrals, if anybody needs a referral for contractors or anything like that, this would be a good group to make some good connections. Jamie, I think you do photography, right?
Yes, I do real estate photography, or that's my primary.
Oh,
nice.
Nice.
And
So,
Steven, does this chat screen stay up on the side, like where I could have Jamie's information later? Like, I don't want to mess with it right now, but will I be able to copy and paste that later?
No, you should copy and paste it now because I think everything goes away once we close out.
Okay.
Yeah.
I usually do screenshots since I'm on my phone.
What's that?
I usually take a screenshot since I'm on my phone. So.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Cool. Well, we've got Jonathan's, social media stuff. Does anybody have any questions for Jonathan about any of the topics he covered tonight?
Thank you, Jonathan. And it was really a good, I think, overview as well as insight about the geography of the Big Bear. Obviously, I went to Big Bear multiple times, but I never knew about there is a Big Bear City versus Big Bear Lake. One is incorporated versus not incorporated. And that is really the basic knowledge I think one should have it before even they start pursuing or looking for the opportunities. And thank you for that. All the information that really helpful. So whenever whoever is even including myself, when we're ready for that, looking to the opportunity, at least we have the basic understanding now. From there, we can build on the next steps of it. Thank you.
Perfect. Yeah, you're very welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, John. I appreciate it. Do you know roughly what's the percentage that the rents do go down, like in the summertime or spring?
Yeah, right now, I mean, when you look at Big Bear Lake, right now it's down like 33%. And
okay.
that is, even if COVID wasn't happening, that's normal for this time of the year.
Okay.
As we get into, so basically hot season, for the rentals is wintertime.
Right.
It slows down around March, April through tax season, kids are, going back to school, wrapping up school. Then when middle of June hits, it's game time. A lot of people coming up, using the lake, hitting all the mountain bike trails. So that's where, having it closer in like Big Bear Lake, you're going to see a higher occupancy rate in the Big Bear Lake East specifically that area, because it's year-round access.
So sort of like summertime, once that starts coming in, rates tend to start going back up.
Yes. Currently with the whole COVID thing, I mean, right now they're like what Pandy is experiencing down there. They're not letting rentals, allowing rentals right now. But assuming that it's over by the summertime, yes, it'll be very busy up here during the summer, especially if they allow it again by summertime. It's going to be even busier than normal because people are just dying to get out of the city and get up to the mountains. And then it slows down again around like just before, Halloween, end of October, it slows down until about Thanksgiving. And then it
picks up again.
Yeah.
Nice.
Hey, one question, Jonathan, if you don't mind, one question. In the desert area where I have that vacation home, pool is preferred, but I don't think Big Bear, considering the Big Bear is more on the higher altitude, a pool is not a mandatory, right? And I would not say mandatory, pool is not really an attractive amenity.
Yeah, if I understand your question, you're wondering if it's an attractive amenity.
Yeah, pool. Bear? Yeah, pool.
Out of the thousands of homes I've seen over the years, I've only seen 3 pools, maybe.
What about jacuzzi? What about jacuzzi?
Thumbs up all day long on spa. Now, spa's going to have their maintenance costs. It's going to raise your bill $1,000 a month on the electricity on average. Mm-hmm. And that was one of the other sections I just didn't have time to get to, but that was, I don't know if you saw it, that was on my next slide. So I'm more than happy to discuss. There's so many other factors.
The spa for sure, especially if you're going with friends. Like if you are traveling up there with friends, you're pretty much looking exclusively for spa homes.
Yeah, Evan from Destination Big Bear, he's one of the guys I was referencing that, that I would refer people to for rental projections. He has told me that on average, it's about $15,000 annually in increased revenue or in revenue, with just having a spa. And then you add a foosball table or pool table, he's averaged $10,000 in addition.
I understand the cost associated to the pool and spa. I got a pool, also heated pool, and the spa. So on my vacation home. So yeah, there are people love to be in the jacuzzi with the families and friends.
Cool. Well, listen, guys, thank you so much, everyone, for being part of this. And, we're excited to bring you guys good real estate information. We also, once this is all over, we do hope to turn this into some in-person meetings. And, my personal goal for this group is that everyone, either become an investor or become a really smart home buyer or seller, and builds connections with other home buyers and sellers in the area so that you have people you can talk to and communicate with and just connect on that level. So thanks again, everyone. And we're here if you guys have any questions. And I hope everyone has a great night. Thank you so much for your time, John. We appreciate you.
Thank you all for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, John.
So much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Steve, for hosting. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Steve.
Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.
You too.
Good night.